Hey everybody, it's Charlie from Daily Motor, and this is something I've been wanting to put together for a long time. We've got all 5 Honda MiniMOTO 125 and 110cc bikes right here in front of us for a little which should you buy sort of video. I'm sure a lot of people are interested in these little bikes. Honda's one of the few brands that makes any bike like this, and the only brand that makes so many. It's such a comprehensive lineup for all different sorts of purposes. So thank you so much to Honda, my buddy Ryan here, helping us out and getting all these bikes sourced for us down here in Torrance, California, and getting us an opportunity to ride every single one. One of the reasons I've been so curious about this is because I owned a Grom. Now I own a Benelli 135, but I would like to get back onto one of these little Honda bikes. And so I was curious which one is the right one to do. They've all got their merits. Starting on the left here, we have the Honda Super Cub. This is the best-selling vehicle in history. They've sold more Super Cubs than, we're talking millions and millions and millions, so more than so many other sorts of cars. This made motorcycling relevant for so many people around the world, and it's still here, 2023, providing riding enjoyment. Next to that, you have the Honda Trail 125. That, similar to the Super Cub, but more of a robust model. You've got a beefier suspension, beefier tires, more usability, more gruntiness. It's more for the trail. It's aptly named. A huge rack on the back here, something you can take and do off-roading with, go on trails and adventures, and really have a good time doing it. Next to that, we have the OG, the Honda Grom. This is what made the MiniMOTO segment back in the early 2010s. Honda came out with this, and it was an instant hit. People doubted it, but it made that little 125cc single-cylinder motor so popular on the street. And this one is still, I would argue, the most fun one to ride, but we'll talk about that here in a moment. Then, if the Grom's looks don't do it for you, you've got the Honda Monkey. This is the more sophisticated Grom. This one, in my opinion, looks much better. It's got that classic motorcycle look. It's got this beautiful new plaid seat for 2023, this really cool color option. But other than that, you've still got the 5-speed transmission that the Grom does, the same motor. These two are the most usable of the group for higher speed motorcycle riding. And then the newest addition, the Honda Navi. This one, while still being considered a MiniMOTO in Honda's lineup, is the most different of all these. It's the little sibling, if you will. It's the runt, even, you could call it. But that doesn't make it irrelevant, because this costs less than $2,000. That's right, you can go down to a Honda dealer, if there is a dealer that has one in stock, and go plop down about $2,000 and have yourself a full street legal motorcycle with storage and proper brakes and a passenger seat. A lot more usability even than some of these more expensive Honda MiniMOTOs. So let's talk more about why you'd have each one. Say you're looking to do some off-road type of riding. Well, then you're probably going to start narrowing it down to the Trail 125 or the Monkey. You can see they both have knobbier tires, the Monkey especially, some grippier, blocky boys, a little bit more of a robust suspension than something like the Grom. The Monkey has 2 shocks in the back. The Grom just has that single, so it's going to support you a little better. And when we were riding it around earlier, it was the most comfortable and the most well-damped out of all the bikes here. But if you're going to do the most hardcore riding, that's when you want the Trail 125. It's going to have the most protection, good amount of ground clearance, 44-pound rack that you can stick things on the back here. Again, the dual shocks in the rear, and these really grippy grips, if you will, handlebar grips. Really good for that sort of deal. If you want to do metropolitan, sort of kind of just looking really cool and an easy riding experience, that's where you're going to want to go with the Super Cub. If you look right here, there's no clutch lever. This one and the Trail 125 are both clutchless manuals, so you actually shift up with this back lever and down with this front lever, and you never have to pull in a clutch. So that does make it a little bit easier for someone who's not very familiar with operating a manual transmission, or if you're doing a lot of city type riding, then that might be the easy way for you. And then if you have absolutely no interest in shifting whatsoever, and you just want a little thing to buzz around at slower speeds, that is where the Navi is going to come into play. Total automatic. It's a kind of like a moped style automatic, if you will, a scooter. No chain or anything like that, and it's much more of a slurry type experience, but it's super easy to just hop on, start it up, and ride away. And has one of my favorite elements, this right here. pop that open, and there's a large waterproof storage area. I think that's so key, and something that the Super Cub is actually missing out on is not having any storage. It is the only MiniMOTO with any sort of enclosed storage space, and I think that's really cool. I think they really maximized the usefulness here of the Navi. So let's take them all out for a quick little spin around the complex here. Starting out with the Super Cub, another cool thing the Super Cub has is a proximity key. It's the only one of the 5 that you don't have to use a real key. You can simply just have this in your pocket. And only 1 seat. I think that is a bit of a bummer if you wanted to run somebody around. But you hop on, turn this key to the right. Also no side stand for the Super Cub. So you've only got that center stand. Pop it down. Some very thin tires, kind of a large bicycle seat feel. And when you're ready to move, you press down into first. You get a first gear indicator. I like having that. And simply roll away. So you sort of ride it like you would a motorcycle. You shift like you would a motorcycle. You still sort of let off the accelerator and do your shifting. You just don't have to pull a clutch in. But it is grunty. We hear that 125 motor. And this one will get you up easily to about 50, 55 miles per hour. I'd say this is one of the MiniMOTOs that you could get away with running 55 mile an hour roads and being able to keep up with traffic. That's not to be said about all of them. Certainly aren't going to be doing any highways with this one, but it's pretty darn easy to ride. And then as you come to a stop, you simply roll it down. You can come to a full stop. Don't have to pull in any clutch. You can see I'm still in 3rd gear. And I would just shift down into neutral. And then it's just in neutral. And then when you're ready to be done, you got to lift it back up on the center stand. But then because of this proximity key, you could simply walk away and bike is inoperable then. So that's pretty cool. It's definitely, if you wanted to have the key in your bag or something like that, I could see the usefulness of that. Same engine and transmission here in the Trail 125. But again, totally different sort of use case. And actually, I kind of liked riding this one around town even better than the Super Cub because I liked being able to maybe hop up on a curb easier, a little bit extra grunt because this one is geared a little bit lower. However, the gauge cluster is pretty hard to see and there's no gear indicator. So this one, despite still having that clutchless automatic or clutchless manual, this one's a little bit more for someone who might kind of know what they're doing on a bike. Right away though, it feels a lot quicker than the Super Cub because of its lower gearing, but because of that and the knobbier tires, you're gonna have a tough time doing 55 on this bike. I did not see 55 mile an hour even with some wind at my back, so you're gonna want to keep this one a little bit more local road style. I mean, you could do it on some trips, but you're really gonna be tacking it out, and I would actually kind of be interested to see what it would be like with some different gearing. Maybe gear it up a little bit in the front and see if you could get it to have a little bit more leg. Also, this one doesn't sound quite as good as the others. You get a little more raspiness, a little more pinginess up front. Something going on with the front of the exhaust there. Same thing, you can kind of just rotate it down into neutral when it's stopped. And this one does have a side stand and a center stand, so I do appreciate that. Next, we're going to go over to the Monkey. And like I said, the Monkey and the Grom are the most similar. These two are kind of based off each other. You can see their similarities, kind of that pass through there, the similar smaller wheels and tires, but kind of two different uses. And then you've got these two. These are kind of more similar to each other as well. The Monkey, as like I said, I think it's the classiest looking. Get a little bit closer to the Grom here and compare some of the differences. Unfortunately, though, compared to the Grom, it is only a one-seater, and you're not going to be able to fit a passenger because of this big old exhaust pipe coming off. And it actually, this exhaust pipe also makes it kind of hard to stand up on If you see, when I try to stand on this, my leg is hitting the exhaust pipe. You can still do it, but it feels like your feet are being pushed off the pegs, whereas on something like the Grom, you can hop right up on. The handlebars are a little bit higher. You could really mess around doing some standing on that. Different tires, but similar wheelbase and everything. This has more of your street-friendly tires, and this one you can really feel the squish of these more off-road oriented tires when you're riding it around, doing more aggressive cornering. But I love the seat so much. The handlebars also curve a little bit more back on the Monkey. On the Grom, they are a little bit more flat in sort of a straight-out feeling. Feel more like a dirt bike on that. This feels more like a cruiser banana bike kind of style. Very classy gauge cluster, but it's super difficult to see, and no gear indicator. So you're gonna have to count your gears. I think this sounds the best out of all the MiniMOTOs, though. This exhaust, it's got the lowest kind of grunty sound to it. This 5-speed is really good in my opinion. It might be a little bit hard to get into neutral sometimes. Ooh, yeah. Ah, that's so smooth and so fun to just go back and forth on the Cub and the Trail 125. Like to stay upright more. They're taller wheels and the inertia. This one really loves to just go back and forth, and I could sit on the seat all day. The suspension, look at that, hop right over the speed bump, barely notice it. This is the most relaxing MiniMOTO. And I could just see myself riding all day on this thing. In fact, I don't want to get off. I'm going to go left. Oh, there's a lot of speed bumps over there. I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back this way. No tachometer, but you kind of just learn when to shift. And I mean, worst case, you hit the rev limiter up top, and then you're like, oh, well, I guess it's time to shift. Ah, yeah, this one is nice. This is, I don't know if it's my favorite. The not being able to stand is a bit of a bummer for me, but I do love the seat. I love the way it looks. I love the way it sounds. I said it earlier when I was shooting the individual review on this one, but I could see myself, as weird as it is, I could see myself getting a Monkey and then putting more Grom-style street tires on it, because I think that would add to the liveliness and, of course, the top speed a little bit. No center stand, just a nice little side stand there. And you can see it next to the Trail 125. I'm actually going to bring it back just slightly. Much smaller wheels than the other two, and you really notice the characteristics of that. These two bikes feel much more sporty. And yes, the Grom, the little one-eyed Cyclops that just does everything so well. The price is right. Everything is so tightly built and proper on this thing. It's simple, but it works. It just works. Hop on. You get the best gauge cluster. You got a tachometer there, a gear indicator. Ooh, yeah, I like that grunty sound as well. Clock up on the top left. Ooh. The Grom feels like a shrunken down version of a big bike, and it acts like that. You feel like you're riding a big motorcycle that just happens to be small. All the other bikes, aside from maybe the Monkey, but definitely the other three, feel like maybe oversized scooters. They have the characteristic of feeling like you're like, okay, I'm pushing the limits of this platform, whereas the Grom feels more like it's just right. Like you can tell that it's doing so well with what it's got. You also have a little rev indicator light that comes on. And man, this thing just really zooms. You can really get up to some high speeds with it. The Grom is the only one that you could realistically go out and do 60 miles per hour and cruise along in, and I know because I've done that because I owned a Grom. This new 5-speed. Here it is next to the Monkey. See the similar size of wheels. Maybe a little bit lower side stand there. I just wish I could get the Grom headlight, or the Monkey headlight on the Grom, which I'm sure there's some way I could do that. But I like all the chrome bits and stuff of the monkey as well. So those two are similar, these two are similar, and then this one is kind of in a league of its own, but in a good way. Like I said, a lot of departure from those. This one has a carburetor versus fuel injection on all those, so those are going to be much easier, more reliable to start up and head out on. This one is an affordable. That's its main thing, is being affordable. But having the rear seat, I think, is huge. Having the rear storage rack is huge. Having the inner storage is just, again, huge. I should have used smaller words for those. There we go. I had to pull the brake a little bit more. Comes to life and sounds more like a scooter, because it practically is a scooter in a motorcycle body. And the biggest thing you notice with the Grom is you don't get that snappiness feeling of the throttle between being carbureted and also not being a conventional transmission, being this continuously variable automatic. It kind of just whirs itself up to speed. And that's not to say it's slow. You can see even in this little lot, I'm getting them right up over 30 miles per hour. But it doesn't have the excitement feeling of the big bikes. But it does have the excitement riding. If you can carry some speed around, I mean, you're still getting the experience of riding a little motorcycle around. Oof, a little bit of dirt there. And the fact that you can do this for half the price of some of those other bikes, I think is really big, because none of these bikes are likely to be somebody's main method of transportation. So why not just keep it simple with this? I mean, if you crashed one of these, if you bought one and then never really rode it, you wouldn't feel as bad as if you had sunk in twice as much money into those other bikes. I mean, this, you just keep your super simple insurance on it and just ride it around, have some fun, throw some things in the center there. Use it kind of like you would with a moped, but this will actually do 50 miles per hour, just barely. maybe on a flat ground, but it's going to be a lot faster than a moped, that's for sure. Definitely a different characteristic. You wouldn't have as much fun going out on like a weekend romp on the Navi, but using it as a method of fun transportation, I think is the key with this one. And looking at it right next to the Grom here, size-wise, I mean, it's about the same physical size. So just because the Navi is cheaper and slower doesn't mean that you're going to be any less comfortable on it necessarily. I mean, the suspension's going to be a little bit better on the Grom, but everything else, dimensions-wise and seat and everything, pretty darn similar. To summarize my quick thoughts on all of them: affordable fun, the OG and the great, the fancy boy, the capable one, and the old school. Simple and easy. But that's the thing, is it's just so cool that Honda makes these the way they do. And they're just all about being pure, simple, and fun. And I've had so much fun riding them all around. If it were me, if I lived out in the country still, I would really be thinking about one of those 125s that I could just beat on out in the woods and the trails and stuff and have a lot of fun. But realistically, I'd probably have a dirt bike as well, so I could probably do those type of things. So I'd be down between these two right now, the Grom and the Monkey. And it's really tough for me to say. If I were doing more riding, longer rides on the bike more, I think I'd pick the Monkey. It's just that much more comfortable, and it looks that much cooler. The Grom is so much cheaper and more fun from a throwing it around at higher speeds perspective that I think I'd probably just have to get another Grom, and I didn't expect to say that. But I could also possibly see getting a Monkey. A Navi. But I think I would rather spend the extra money and have the excitement factor of the Grom. So thank you all so much for watching. I hope this was fun and informative. And I would just highly recommend going out and taking a spin on one of these. If you've been thinking about it, maybe you want a spare bike, maybe you're not a primary motorcyclist, but you'd like to just have something in the garage to throw around in the evenings or something like that, the Honda MiniMOTO lineup is certainly one to check out. And check the links in the description for individual reviews on all of these bikes. I've got 4 reviews shot today on the non-Grom, and then I'll throw the links to my Grom ownership experience video in there. Thank you all so much for watching, and we will see you on the next one. I'm Charlie from Daily Motor, and as always, ride on.